That's why Maestro Justiniano suggested to Rizal's parents that he would be sent to Manila to pursue higher education. So on June 10, 1872, this is 4 months after the execution of Gumburza, Rizal went to Manila with his brother Pasiano to take entrance examination in Colegio de San Juan de Letran. So Rizal passed the exam, but his father, Francisco Mercado, wanted him to study in a school which is headed by the Jesuits. Since Colegio de San Juan de Letran is headed by Dominicans, Rizal's father convinced him to try in Ateneo de Municipal, which is a Jesuit college. However, there was a problem when Rizal tried to enroll in Ateneo because Father Magin Ferrando, which is the college registrar of Ateneo that time, refused to admit Rizal for the reason that Rizal is too very late for the registration and he was being sickly and very young that time. But through the help of Manuel Ceres Burgos, which is Jose Burgos' nephew, Rizal was admitted to Ateneo. So it was in Ateneo where Jose used the surname Rizal, which come from the word Rizal, meaning green field or pasture. So yun nga, according to Sir, due to the order of the Governor General that time, uh, they were ordered to change their surnames based on the list given by Spanish government. So nung pumasok si Rizal sa Ateneo, dito niya unang nagamit yung surname na Rizal. So this surname was uniquely chosen by his father also to avoid suspicions from the Spanish authorities of their relationship with the martyr Burgos. Because yung family ng Mercado, particularly Rizal's brother Pasiano, was very close to Father Burgos of Gumborza. So Rizal's first professor in Ateneo was Father Jose Beck. Back then in Ateneo de Municipal, students were being classified into two groups, which is the Carthaginian Empire and Roman Empire. Carthaginian Empire consists of extern students or non-borders students within the vicinity of Ateneo. On the other hand, Roman Empire consists of interns or those who were living inside the vicinity of Ateneo. So both group, the Carthaginian and Roman Empire, ranks the students as emperor, tribune, decurion, centurion, and standard bearer. So emperor is the highest rank, which is considered as the most outstanding student in class, and standard bearer as the lowest or the standard average students. So Rizal, as an extern, was of course placed in Carthaginian Empire. And since Rizal was a newcomer in the class, he was of course placed at the bottom of ranking. But with Rizal's excellence and determination, he managed to progress and became an emperor or top of the class after 1 month. He was also awarded a prize called a religious picture, which is his first ever received award. So during Rizal's leisure time, he took private lessons at Santa Isabel College to improve his Spanish. So kahit leisure time niya, nag-aaral pa rin siya sa Santa Isabel College para ma-improve ang pagsasalita at paggamit niya ng Spanish language, which he paid 3 pesos for Spanish lessons. So on March 1873, this was Rizal's vacation after his first year in Ateneo. Rizal went home to Calamba for summer vacation. But to his surprise, her mother was arrested nung umuwi siya sa Calamba. So it is said that his mother was arrested because of a malicious charge that she and her brother Jose Alberto tried to poison Alberto's wife. So the authorities let Rizal's mother walk a very long distance, which is about 50 kilometers, from Calamba to Santa Cruz and was imprisoned for 2.5 years. So in his second year, Rizal continued to excel in his studies that he received excellent grades in all subjects, and a gold medal as a diligent student and voracious reader. So, hilig na talaga ni Rizal noon ang magbasa. So, Rizal kept on reading fiction, non-fiction, and novels like The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas and relate himself to the sufferings of Edmond Dantes, which is the main character in the story. He also read The Travels in the Philippines, written by Dr. Fyodor Jagor, a German scientist traveler who visited the Philippines during the Spanish colonization. And that book consists of the author's keen observation and defects of Spanish colonization and the prophecy that they will lose and be succeeded by America as a colonizer. So on his fourth year, was inspired to study hard and to write poetry by one of his professors, Father Francisco de Paula Sanchez, a great educator and scholar who recognized Rizal as a poet. So Rizal excelled in all subjects and won medals every end of semester. He was considered the most brilliant Athenian of his time and was also called as the pride of his suites. So Rizal's grade were all marked as sobresaliente, which means excellent. On March 1877, he received his degree of Bachelor of Arts with honors in Ateneo. So because of the formal lessons that Rizal learned in Ateneo, he gradually gained proficiency both in the art of rhetoric and in the art of an independent thinking. So, for example, Rizal once wrote a poem where he expressed his ideas on the value of education in his poem entitled as Por la Educación recibe lustre la patria, or in English, through education, the country receives light. So sa poem na ito, hinighlight ni Rizal ang importance ng education, especially to the youth. So mahihinuha mula sa poem na yun na Rizal really had a high regard when it comes to education, as he believed that education has important role in the development and progress of a nation. Other poems of Rizal that he wrote while in Ateneo was inspired by Father Sanchez, which is the one who recognized him as poet, which encouraged him to make full use of his God-given talents in poetry and to open his mind to the rich influence of the world's literature. So Rizal wrote poems on various topics such as religion, education, childhood memories, war, and etc. So the academic excellence of Rizal and his literary skills qualified him for membership in two exclusive organizations, which are the Academy of Spanish Literature and the Academy of Natural Science. So these are some of the extracurricular activities that Rizal was involved. So he was a campus leader, an active member, and became a secretary of the Marian Congregation Religious Society, a poet, studied painting under the famous Spanish painter Agustin Saez, improved his sculpture talents under the supervision of Romualdo de Jesus, engaged in gymnastics and fencing, and continued physical training under his sports-minded Tio Manuel. So for the next topic, my partner will discuss the remaining part of the discussion.
So, good afternoon, sir and classmates. I'm Lavin Clint Argarin. I'm the partner of Nicole Andre Archinko. For the continuation of our report, so after graduating, Rizal continued his higher education at University of Santo Tomas. UST was under the Dominicans, which is rival of Jesuits. Actually, mother was against of Rizal continuing his studies because she has a premonition that Rizal's life will be imperiled once he acquired too much knowledge and might have the same tragic fate to the Gumburza. But after a long discussion with family members, Rizal's father and Pasiano convinced his mother to permit him to enroll in a university. On his first year in UST, he took the course of philosophy and letters primarily because his father liked it and Rizal was still undecided on what career path to take. However, he decided to shift to a medical course by the second year. Although Rizal was studying at UST, he was still loyal to Ateneo that he still participated in extracurricular activities there. While studying in philosophy and letters on his first year, he was also simultaneously taking up courses of surveying at Ateneo, which will be titled as Pereto Agrimensor or Expert Surveyor, but Rizal was not given the title because of his young age. During during Rizal's stay in UST, he also won more literary laurels or awards. Next slide. Next slide po. The reason why Rizal shifted his course to medicine is because he wanted to cure his mother's failing eyesight. And also, Pablo Ramon, the father rector of Ateneo, whom he consulted for a choice of career, replied and recommended medicine. Rizal, Rizal's pre-med course. The pre-med course that Rizal took was Curso de Ampliación or advanced course in physics, chemistry, and natural history. That time, they were 28 young men taking this pre-med course, and out of those 28 young men, only 4 including Rizal were allowed to take pre-med course and first year of medicine simultaneously. Rizal received his 4-year practical training in medicine at the Hospital de San Juan de Dios in Intramuros. During his last year in university, Rizal had obtained the global grade of notable or very good in all his subjects, and he was the second best students in their class who passed the medicine course. During Rizal's stay in UST, he saw and experienced the rampant discrimination of Spaniards to Filipinos. That's why his stay in UST was not meaning that was not that meaningful and fruitful for him because he found the atmosphere at UST suffocating to his sensitive spirit. Hindi nagustuhan ni Rizal ang pamamalakad ng mga Dominican sa institution for higher learning because their method of teaching is very different to virulent method at Ateneo. That time, laganap talaga ang prejudice and racial discrimination. That's why after completing his med school in UST, he decided to leave the country and go to Europe because he was not happy and cannot contain hatred, discrimination, discontent he had towards the Spanish students and teachers. Rizal went to Europe to finish his medical schooling, but the main purpose is for him in the realm of journalism and to observe and study European way of life. Postgraduate education. Rizal's education abroad. Rizal decided to study in Spain, and his academic journey there was from 1882 to 1885. Rizal went to Spain without consent from his parents and only the financial support of his brother Pasiano. It was also kept a secret from Spanish authorities and friars. He did, he did not let his mother knew because she would not allow Rizal to go. Rizal traveled alone to Madrid, Spain on May 3, 1882 via the steamer called Salvadora sailing to Singapore where he was the only Filipino passenger. On November 3, 1882, Rizal enrolled in two courses, philosophy and medicine, at the Universidad Central de Madrid. He also took lessons in painting and sculpture and studied French, German, and English languages under a private instructor in the Academy of San Carlos. Rizal completed his degree of licentiate in medicine on June 21, 1884, and passes all subjects for the degree of Doctor of Medicine the following year. Rizal also finished his studies in philosophy and letters with higher grades and later on awarded the degree of licentiate in philosophy and letters on June 19, 1885. Rizal continued Rizal continued his career on medicine, so he went to Paris and Germany to specialize ophthalmology. He wanted ophthalmology as a specialization, of course, because he wanted to cure his mother failing eyesight. So after he completed his studies in Universidad Central de Madrid, Rizal went to Paris to acquire more knowledge in ophthalmology. After graduating, after gathering some experience in ophthalmology in Paris, he lived and went to Heidelberg, Germany on February 3, 1886. There he worked at the University Eye Hospital under the direction of Dr. Otto Becker, a German ophthalmologist. On August 14, 1886, Rizal then went to Leipzig, Germany, and attended some lectures at the University of Leipzig on history and psychology. So, medyo nagtagal si Rizal sa Germany and he had reasons why he chose to stay there longer. The first one is to gain further studies in science and languages. The second is to observe the economic and political condition of the German nation. Third is to associate the famous science Third is to associate with the famous scientists and scholars. So gusto niyang makatrabaho yung o makakalaborate yung mga famous na scientists and scholars sa Germany. And lastly and most importantly is to publish his novel Noli Me Tangere. That will be all for our report. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you so much. We will accommodate first the other group for the presentation. Then after which we will discuss the topics. Please present now next group. Thank you so much, Ms. Ochinko and Mr. Argarin. Okay, paki-ready na po we will accommodate three topics this afternoon. Ready na po yung susunod. Hello? We'll accommodate muna. Then after which, we will discuss. Please introduce first your name for record purposes. Then you can now start.
Hello. Hello, sir.
Okay, please start now, Mr. Rino.
Wait lang po, sir. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And I'm here to, and my partner, Jamil Mencias, to report about the travel of Rizal. I'm Rino Villamea, and my partner is Jamil Mencias. Dr. Jose Rizal was considered as the most traveled Filipino hero. He traveled to almost 20 countries and about 40 island cities. So, Rizal parents, Leonor, or his sweetheart, and the Spanish authorities knew nothing of his decision to go abroad. Only his brother Pasiano, Uncle Antonio Rivera, sisters Neneng and Lucia, the Valenzuela family, Padre Paterno, Compadre Mateo Evangelista, Ateneo Jesuits priest, and some intimate friends. Before Rizal's secret departure, he wrote a farewell letter to his parents and his sweetheart Leonor Rivera, which was delivered to them after he sailed away. His main reason in leaving the Philippines was to transfer at the Universidad Central de Madrid in Spain and to finish his medicine course. So let's proceed to the chronological order date. And first, May 3, 1882. On board the Spanish steamer Salvadora, Rizal departed for Spain using Jose Mercado on his travel documents. So, sa pag-travel niya sa steamer Salvadora, ang ginamit niyang pangalan sa kanyang passport or sa kanyang document is Jose Mercado. On May 8, 1882, he was a 2-day stopover in Singapore, an English colony. May 11, 1882, he was on board on the steamer Gemna, a French steamer much larger and cleaner than Salvadora. May 17, 1882, he arrived at Point Gale, a seacoast town in southern Ceylon, now Sri Lanka. May 18, 1882, he had a stopover at Colombo, the capital of Ceylon. May 28, 1882, from Colombo, Ceylon, the Gemnas continued the voyage and crossed the Indian Ocean until it reached Cape of Guardafin, Africa. Then he reached Aden. On June 2, 1882, from Aden, he proceeded to Suez Canal, then to the Red Sea terminal reaching Port Said. On June 11, 1882, from the Port Said, the steamer proceeded to Europe and reached Naples City, Italy. So, in June 15, the steamer left Marseille by train and reached Pyrenees and stopped for a day at Bordeaux. And June 16, from Portbou, Rizal continued his trip and finally reached his destination, Barcelona, Spain. Life in Barcelona. At first, Rizal had a bad impression of Barcelona. Ugly, dirty little inns, inhospitable people, because he happened to stay upon his arrival in a stingy hostel. Later, he changed his mind and came to like the city as a great city with an atmosphere of freedom and liberalism, and the people were open-hearted, hospitable, and courageous. Rizal was welcomed by the Filipinos in Barcelona. Some were his classmates in Ateneo. They gave him a party, exchanged a toast, and told Rizal to the attraction and custom of the people of Barcelona. And as a return, Rizal was kinuwento ni Rizal ang mga chismis sa Pilipinas. So while in Barcelona, si Rizal ay nakatanggap ng dalawang masamang balita. Ano 'yon? Unang balita ay ang cholera outbreak in Manila and other provinces. And the second bad news is a letter from Chengoy or Jose Cecilio, the common friend of Leonora, and Leonora his sweetheart, and Rizal, that the letter, uh, ang nilalaman ng letter ay patuloy na pumapayat ang kanyang sweetheart na si Leonora Rivera dahil sa pangungulila sa pagmamahal ni Rizal. So next is life in Madrid. On November 3, 1882, Rizal enrolled in the Universidad Central de Madrid in medicine and philosophy and letters. He also studied painting and sculpture in the Academy of Fine Arts of San Fernando, took tutoring lessons in French and English, and practiced fencing and shooting in the Hall of Arms Sans Carbonel. Rizal, Rizal lived frugally, rigidly budgeting his money wisely. Although he used to buy tickets in every draw to the Madrid lottery, he never wasted his money for gambling, wine, and women. So naniniwala ba kayo na hindi gumastos si Rizal sa mga kababaihan? And he spent his leisure time reading books, purchase second-hand books, practice shooting and fencing. And other times, he visited his Filipino friends, fraternized with other students, and visited the home of Don Pablo Ortega Iri, where he became attracted to Consuelo's beauty and charm. So yun na, nagsisimula na si Rizal. On June 21, 1884, Rizal has conferred the licentiate in medicine by Universidad Central Madrid. In the next academic year, 1884-1885, he passed all the subjects leading to the degree of Doctor of Medicine. However, he has not conferred with the degree for failure to present the thesis required for graduation and pay corresponding fee. Nevertheless, by obtaining the degree of licentiate in medicine, He became a full-fledged physician and qualified to practice medicine. On June 19, 1885, on his 24th birthday, Rizal was awarded the degree of licentiate in philosophy and letters by the Universidad Central de Madrid. By obtaining this degree, he became qualified to be a professor of humanities in any Spanish university. On June 25, 1885, Rizal was invited to speak a banquet or a party to celebrate a double victory of two Filipino artists who won Luna's Spoliarium, winning first place, and the Felix Hidalgo Christian Virgins Exposed to the Populace winning second prize in the National Exposition of Fine Arts in Madrid. On November 1885, Rizal went to the Paris and lived there for 4 months, where he worked as an assistant to Dr. Louis de Wecket, a leading French ophthalmologist outside ophthalmologist. Outside working hours, he visited his friends and even went to Juan Luna's studio to help by posing as a model in several paintings. In February 3, 1886, He left Paris for Heidelberg, Germany. Since he was a good chess player, he was made a member of Chess Players Club. Rizal worked at the University Eye Hospital under Dr. Otto Becker, a distinguished German ophthalmologist, and attended lectures to Dr. Becker and Professor Wilhelm Quay in the university. On July 3, 1886, Rizal wrote his first letter in German to Professor Ferdinand Blumentritt, an Austrian ethnologist interested in the Philippine languages, who was at the time of director of Ateneo Lemeritz, Austria. August 9, 1886, Rizal left Heidelberg and boarded a train and visited other cities of Germany. August 14, 1886, he arrived at Leipzig, attended some lectures at the University of Leipzig in history and psychology, and befriended Professor Friedrich Ratzel, the famous German historian. Life in Berlin. On November 1, 1886, Rizal left Dresden by train and reached Berlin, where Rizal met for the first time Dr. Fyodor Jagor, a famous German scientist, traveler, and author of travels in the Philippines. Rizal became impressed in Berlin because of the scientific atmosphere and absence of racial race. He lived in Berlin in a frugal life. He worked as an assistant in Dr. Schwesiger's clinic, attended lectures in the University of Berlin, took private lessons under French professor Madame Lucie Serdale, performed daily exercise in Berlin Gymnasium, observed nearly the custom, dresses, home, and occupation of the peasants, and made sketches of the things he saw. During winter in 1886, in Berlin, he lived in the poverty because he was broke. He had to eat only one meal a day consisted of bread, water, and cheap vegetable soup, watch his clothes resulting to his health breakdown. Rizal went to Berlin for 5 reasons. So first is to increase his knowledge in ophthalmology. Second is to broaden his studies of science and languages. Third is to observe political and economic condition of Germany. Fourth is to associate with famous German scientists and scholars. And lastly, to publish his novel Noli Me Tangere. On May 11, 1887, Rizal and Viola left Berlin and went to Dresden. May 13, 1887, Rizal and Viola on board a train reached Lemeritz, Bohemia, now the Czechoslovakia, where he met another famous scientist of Europe, Dr. Carlos Saipalan, and other eminent naturalist Robert Klutschak. On May 17, 1887, Rizal and Viola left Litmeritz by train on their way to the city of Prague. And May 19, 1887, Rizal and Viola went to Bronze City. And May 20, 1887, they arrived at the city of Vienna, capital of Austria-Hungary. On May 24, 1887, they left Vienna by a river boat and ended in Linz. Afterward, they traveled on the land Zalburg and from here to Munich. From Munich, they went to Nuremberg and then to Ulm. June 2 to 3, 1887, they continued their trip on boat and reached Bern, Lausanne. On June 6, 1887, Rizal and Viola reached Geneva, Switzerland, where he received and the news about the deplorable condition of the Igorots of northern Luzon who were exhibited in the 1887 Madrid exhibition, and their scanty clothing and crude weapon were objects of mockery and laughter by the Spaniards. So, in June 29, 1887, Rizal wrote to his father announcing that he is coming home. But Pasiano and his family and friends warned him not to return because of the publication of Noli Me Tangere caused an uproar and anger among the friars and in the Philippines. So, gumawa si Rizal ng letter na babalik na siya sa Pilipinas. Ngunit pinigilan siya ng kanyang family sapagkat ang mga Spaniards daw ay nagagalit dahil sa kanyang ginawang novel na Noli Me Tangere na kung saan ay inaatake nito ang mga Spaniards. But si Rizal ay hindi nagpatalo sa sa war ng kanyang pamilya. Ang kanyang rason kung bakit bumalik siya sa Pilipinas is para maoperahan ang kanyang ina sa mata, and second is to serve the Filipino people who were oppressed by the Spanish tyrants. Third is to determine how his knowledge and the writings affected the Filipinos and the Spaniards, and to inquire the condition of Leonor Rivera. So, in July 3, 1887, Rizal left Rome by train for Marseilles and boarded to Gemna and Manila-bound steamer. On July 30, 1887, in Saigon, he transferred to the steamer Haiphong bound for Manila. In August 2, 1887, steamer Haiphong left Saigon for Manila. And August 5, 1887, steamer Haiphong arrived in Manila. August 8, 1887, Rizal returned home to Calamba, where he was met affectionately and with plentiful tears of joy. However, his family became worried for his safety, so Pasiano did not leave him during his first day after arrival of his father, did not let him go out alone. So, brief a brief stay in Calamba. Upon his return from abroad, Rizal established a medical clinic in Calamba, where his first patient is his mother, is almost blind. Thus, treating his mother eye, the patients from Manila and nearby provinces flocked to Calamba for treatment. His professional fee were reasonable, and those who were poor were treated free of charge. During his 6 month stay in Calamba, he failed to see Leonor Rivera. A few weeks after Rizal's arrival in Calamba, there were threats over Rizal's life due to the publication of his book, Noli Me Tangere. Gobernador General Emilio Terrero, 1985 to 1888, assigned a young Spanish lieutenant, Don Jose Taviel de Andrade, as bodyguard to prevent Rizal from being harassed. In addition to his controversial book Noli Me Tangere, the Dominican friars got more furious because of Rizal's exposure and deplorable condition of tenancy in Calamba, which infuriated further his enemy. This alarmed his parents, relatives, and friends, and even Lieutenant Andrade. Thus, the governor general advised Rizal to escape and leave the Philippines for his own good. And now, let's proceed to, to the second trip abroad by Rizal that will discuss by my partner Jamil Mensayas. Thank you.
Hello. So a pleasant afternoon to everyone. I am Jamil Mencias, and let us now move on to Serizal's second trip abroad. So on the
Okay, so
year,
continue.
so on the year 1888, Rizal left Manila for Hong Kong on board the Zafiro. On February 7, the steamer Zafiro made a brief stopover at Amoy. On February 8, he arrived in Hong Kong. On February 18, Rizal and Basa visited the Macau boarding the ferry steamer Kukiang. On February 21, Rizal and Basa went back to Hong Kong. So while in Hong Kong, Jose Sainz de Varonda, a Spaniard, was commissioned by the Spanish authorities to spy on Rizal. On February 22, on board the American steamer Oceanic, Rizal left Hong Kong for Japan. On February 28, Rizal arrived at Yokohama, Japan. On February 29, he proceeded to Tokyo, Japan. So while in Japan, Rizal met Saiko-san. On April 13, Rizal boarded the English steamer Belgic, bound for United States. And then, Rizal arrived at the San Francisco port. However, all the passengers were not allowed to land because the ship was placed under the quarantine, for it came from Far East where the cholera epidemic was alleged to be raging. On May 4, Rizal and the other passengers were permitted to land. On May 6, 1888, he left San Francisco to Oakland. On May 7, Rizal boarded a train for a trip across the American continent, where he go to Reno, to Nevada, to Utah, to Ogden, to Denver, to Colorado, to Nebraska, to Chicago, to Canada, and then Albany. On May 13, Rizal reached New York on board the ship called City of Rome, and then Rizal left New York for Liverpool. Rizal's impression of America. So his good impressions is that America is a progressive nation with great cities, huge farms, flourishing industries, and busy factories. American people were energetic and hardworking. The cities were beautiful, standard of living is high, better opportunities for a better life, especially the poor immigrants. While his bad impressions, his racial prejudice existed, democracy and freedom were only in words, not practiced, and no true civil liberty. On May 25, 1888, he went to London and stayed there for a short time as a guest at the home of Dr. Antonio Mar- Maria Regidor, a practicing lawyer in London. So while in London, he received bad news: the persecution of the Filipino patriots who signed the petition for the expulsion of the friars in the Philippines. Attacks on Rizal by Senator Salamanca and Vida. Persecution of Rizal family and the other Calamba farmers for their courage to petition the government for agrarian reforms. Exile of Manuel P. Hidalgo and the arrest and jailing of Rizal's friend Laureano Viado because of the copies of Noli. On September 1888, Rizal visited Paris to search for more historical materials in Bibliothèque Nationale. On December 11, he went to visit his compatriots Marcelo H. del Pilar and Mariano Ponce in Spain. On December 31, a patriotic society was established and inaugurated called Asociación La Solidaridad, with Rizal chosen as the honorary president. On February 15, Graciano Lopez Haina founded the fortnightly patriotic newspaper La Solidaridad in Barcelona, Spain. Its aims were to work for a peaceful political and social reforms in the Philippines, to portray the deplorable conditions of the Philippines, to oppose the evil forces of reaction, to, advocate liberal ideas and progress, and to champion the legitimate aspirations of the Filipino people to life, democracy, and happiness. On March 19, 1889, Rizal went to Paris. He organized his compatriots into a society called Kidlat Club, which would bring together the young Filipinos in the French capital so that they could enjoy their sojourn in the city. On August 1889, Rizal scheduled the holding of the inaugural convention of the International Association of Filipinologists, which aims to study the Philippines from scientific and historical point of view. On September 21, 1889, Rizal founded the society called Redención de los Malayos, or Redemption of the Malays. During the Universal Exposition in Paris, on June 20, Rizal wrote to Marcelo H. del Pilar to serve as the lawyer in the land case that was appealed by the Rizal family to the Supreme Court in Spain. On July 18, 1880, Rizal wrote Mariano Ponce his determination to go home because of the suffering that affected his family. On August, upon his arrival in Madrid, he immediately sought the help of the Filipino colony in order to protest the injustice committed by the Governor General and the Dominican friars against the Calamba people. On August 19, Rizal received a sad news on the untimely death of his friend Jose Panganiban in Barcelona. On September 6, Pasiano Rizal, Antonio Lopez, Silvestre Ubaldo, Mateo Elojorde, and Dandoy were arrested, shipped out of Calamba, and exiled in Mindoro. On December, Rizal received a letter from Leonor Rivera announcing her coming marriage to Englishman and asking his forgiveness. On February 1, 1891, Rizal left Madrid for Biarritz, where he had a brief vacation and stayed as a guest at the boasted family and eventually fell in love with Nellie, but did not end happily. On March 29, 1891, he finished writing the manuscript of the famous El Filibusterismo. May 1, 1891, Rizal notified the propaganda authorities in Manila to cancel his monthly allowance and devote the money to the education of the young Filipino students in Europe. Also, he ceased writing articles for La Solidaridad. On May 30, Rizal almost completed the revision of El Filibusterismo and, and, re, and Riyadh died for printing. On July 15, 1891, Rizal left Brussels for Ghent. He moved to Ghent because the cost of printing in Ghent was cheaper than Brussels. On October 3, Rizal left Ghent for Paris and stayed there for a few days to bid goodbye to his friends. On October 14, from Paris, he went to Marseilles. On October 18, Rizal boarded the steamer Melbourne, bound for Hong Kong. On November 20, he arrived at Hong Kong, and on December 21, Rizal wrote his parents asking for permission to return home. On December 24, Rizal was gladdened by the arrival of his father, brother, and Silvestre Ubaldo. Not long afterwards, his mother and sisters Lucia, Josefina, and Trinidad also arrived. On December 25, it was one of the happiest Yuletide celebrations in Rizal's life as they had a happy family reunion. On January 31, 1892, Rizal wrote Blumen Street recounting their pleasant life in Hong Kong. On March 7, on board the ship Menon, Rizal went to Sandakan to negotiate with the British authorities for the establishment of Filipino colony, which is a success because the Borneo authorities were willing to give Filipino colonists 100,000 acres of land, a beautiful harbor, and a government. On April 20, 1892, Rizal is back to Hong Kong. On May 8, Rizal wanted to return to Manila to confer the Governor Despujol, Despuhol rather, regarding the Borneo colonization project and to establish the La Liga Filipina in Manila, and to prove that Eduardo Delete was wrong in attacking him in Madrid, that he is being comfortable and safe in Hong Kong, and had abandoned the country's cause. On June 21, 1892, Rizal and his sister Lucia left Hong Kong for Manila. At the same date, the Spanish Consul General, who issued him a government guarantee of safety, informed Manila that the victim is on trap. Hence, a secret case was filed against Rizal. And lastly, June 26, 1892, Rizal and his sister Lucia arrived in Manila. And this ends our report. Thank you and stay safe and God bless po.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation, Mr. Rene Bellarea and Mr. Jamil Vinceyas. Okay, so let's discuss first, before we ask the next discussant, the higher education of Rizal, and of course, the travels of Rizal. The first sojourn and then the second sojourn. Okay, so let's first discuss the higher education of Jose Rizal. So take note that Jose Rizal plans pursue his secondary, tertiary, and graduate courses or graduate education. Secondary at Ateneo Municipal, formerly Escuela Pia, and at present known as Ateneo de Manila University, a school run by the Jesuits, where he stayed for 4 years for his secondary years, and then finished Bachelor of Arts. But Bachelor of Arts right now class, that is considered as a 4-year course. Now, Jose Rizal got sobresaliente grades while he was in Ateneo during high school years. He got high grades and then befriended the Jesuits professors, the Jesuits priests, and he considered Ateneo as his favorite school. Then, according to the discussion, the mother of Jose Rizal is against his higher education because he might experience what the Gumburza experience. So meaning, if Jose Rizal will get higher education, the more that Jose Rizal is knowledgeable, the more that he is very close to danger, to that. So that is why his mother is very much against getting higher education. But he continued his higher education in the Universidad de Santo Tomas, or at present, UST. Though it is the close rival of Ateneo during those times. But take note, Ateneo class is a offering students for secondary courses or secondary education, but UST class for tertiary education. Okay, so these are the big schools established by the Spaniards during those times. So Rizal enrolled in the UST first, taking philosophy and letters. Okay, so take note that according to the discussants, the reason why Rizal took philosophy and letters, it's because that his father liked it. And number two reason, Jose Rizal class was still uncertain on what career to pursue. Besides, the skills, the knowledge, the passions class of Rizal belong to his chosen course, philosophy and letters. Ang galing ni Rizal, in terms of philosophy and in terms class of arts. Nanalo siya sa poetry contest, writing novels, writing stories, and other literature. So, ang galing ni Rizal class in philosophy and letters. Now, while he was taking philosophy and letters, he wrote the father rector of Ateneo for an advice on what career he will pursue. But the rector class is in Mindanao. That is why after a year that his letter class was answered, then the father rector advised him to take up medicine. So meaning medicine class is the first choice of Rizal, probably because that Rizal is not inclined for medical courses. But because it was advised by Father Rector of Ateneo, whom he considered class as one of the favorite teachers, in Ateneo, and of course, the failing eyesight of his mother, who was a cataract, then he decided to take up medicine in the UST. Okay, so he transferred, he finished philosophy and letters, but for the second year, he took up medicine course. Okay, so take note, just imagine class, during those times, panahon ni Rizal, our schools or the established schools in the Philippines, may mga nag-o-offer na ng philosophy and letters, may nag-o-offer na ng medicine, nag-o-offer na ng legal education, architecture, surveying, etc. So meaning, compared with other Asian countries, the Philippines class, the Philippine educational system, with the help of the Spaniards, is at par with our Asian and neighboring countries, including the education class in Europe. However, although Jose Rizal class got good grades also while taking up medicine, but you will compare the grades of Jose Rizal while he was in Ateneo, where he received the sobresaliente, the highest grade. In UST, medyo average lang. Although he also received very good, no, very good remarks, very good grades, but there are many average grades that he received, specifically in his mathematics and science subjects. Okay. Kasi take note, you are now taking up medicine. Iba po ang high school years sa college years. Yan ang una dapat natin i-realize. Probably during our high school years, ang tataas ng grades natin. But college life class is different because we are now taking a course. No, kurso na po ang tinitake natin. And of course, if the teaching methodologies, the approach by our high school teachers, ganito, and we find it easy class to pass the subject, but not in college. The approach, the teaching methodology class is entirely different. Specifically, that we are now crafting a course. May kinukuha ka ng kurso for your specialization. And in the case of Rizal, he is taking class up medicine. No, he is taking medical course. And aside from his academics, it was also mentioned that Jose Rizal class is very busy with his extracurricular activities, also enrolled in other subjects while he was in the UST and extracurricular activities in Ateneo. And aside from that, Jose Rizal class is paying attention to two Leonors while he was in his medical studies. Now, typical student na nagko-concentrate sa academics, na nagko-concentrate sa extracurricular activities, and of course, paying attention to women, either in the university or in his hometown. So, sa Rizal class time was divided. Na-divide sa pagkaklase niya ng medicine, sa mga extracurricular activities, including, he is giving attention and time to his two Leonors. Leonor Rivera and then Leonor Valenzuela. But in the presentation of your classmates, that they were not meant, they were not designed or destined to meet Jose Rizal and Leonor Rivera. Kaya si Leonor Rivera class namatay to with depression. No, because she is very much in love with Jose Rizal. Anyways, so while he was a student sa UST, si Rizal, may tig-ilis yun ng dua, Leonor Rivera and Leonor Valenzuela. So, take note that because of this, medyo bumaba ang grades ni Rizal sa ibang subjects. Yung iba, medyo mataas. But unlike UST or unlike Ateneo, he was not able to graduate with highest honor or finish the course with highest honor. Lahat sila na magkaklase sa UST, ganun yung grade. So, pasado naman, pero not all subjects with high grades or highest grades. So, because of this, according to Rizal, he was unhappy, no, sa UST. He was not happy because, according to him, the Dominican professors were hostile to Filipino students, wherein Filipino students were racially discriminated. And the methods of instruction in UST were obsolete. So these were class the arguments or accusations of Rizal against UST. That is why yung UST class nagalit kay Rizal. No? Why you gave us these accusations that the Dominican professors were hostile to you, to Filipino students. No? And then our methods of instructions were obsolete. And the Filipinos were racially discriminated. That is why ito class na Dominicans, including UST, isa ito sa mga nag-opposed doon sa Republic Act 1425, the mandatory teaching class of the subject Rizal Life Works and Writings. Now, because of the accusations of Rizal given to UST. Kaya lang na-approve po ang Republic Act 1425 at walang magagawa ang UST but to follow the law because this is now a law. Kaya lang, kung marami pong mga estatwa, no, ni Rizal, statue of Rizal all over the country. No, may mga Rizal Park, statue of Rizal, library devoted to Rizal, named after Rizal, any statue class inside UST, wala ka pong makikita. No? Wala kang makikita. And of course, they designed a book exclusive for UST students. Kasi may mga remarks si Rizal against the Dominican School UST. That is why, because of these accusations against UST, Rizal continued his study abroad. No? Nakagraduate ba siya sa UST? No. He continued his study in Spain, enrolling the same subjects, philosophy and letters, and medicine at Universidad Central de Madrid. No? Yan din ang in-enroll niya. However, yes, that his mother class is very much against Rizal's higher education. That is why hindi na po pinaalam sa kanyang mother. And of course, there are also persons who knew about his travels to Europe. His objective, one, to continue his studies, and number two, class, for his mission. No? For his mission. And this mission class of Rizal will be enlightened as he go on with his education, with his travels, until he wrote his first novel, Noli Me Tangere, and his second novel, Il Filibusterismo. Take note that while he was class in Madrid, he wrote or started the drafting or writing of Noli Me Tangere, and then published Noli Me Tangere while he was class in Berlin, Germany. Take note, he published his novel Noli Me Tangere in Berlin, Germany. The question there is why? If the content class of his novel Noli Me Tangere intended for the wrongdoings of the friars who are here in the Philippines, then Jose Rizal should publish this novel in the Philippines. But no, it was published plus in Berlin, Germany. For what purpose? We will discuss the purpose class of Jose Rizal when we go on or discuss the novel Noli Me Tangere and Il Filibusterismo. Take note that Jose Rizal class is a very good observant of the historical, political environment not only in the Philippines but also abroad, specifically class in European countries. That is why, now take note that Rizal never intended to write a novel exclusive for the Filipinos in order for Jose Rizal to use that novel to free the Filipinos in the Philippines. No. Rizal is a very good researcher. Rizal observed the customs, the traditions, the traditions, the wrongdoings of the Europeans while he was in European nations. That is why, after he published this novel, Rizal class decided to go home to his homeland, to see his family, to inquire while Rivera was silent, and to practice his being an ophthalmologist. Yes, he finished medicine at Universidad Central de Madrid and get class experiences from famous ophthalmology clinic in Europe, attended lecture in ophthalmology, and served as an assistant in an ophthalmology clinic abroad, where he was able to polish his knowledge about ophthalmology. That is why he go back to the Philippines to cure his mother's eye. And then to establish class a clinic to serve his Filipino people. But this novel class now published not only in the Philippines, in Spain, in Germany, and other countries in Europe. Because take note, it was written class in the Spanish language. And that novel reaches, of course, the Philippines, the friars in the Philippines. But many countries in Europe already class read the novel of Jose Rizal. That is why there were senators from Spain attacking his novel. There were others who are in support of his novel. And the friars in the Philippines got furious of his publication because Rizal class attacked the practices class of the Europeans and how they implement religion to the peoples of the world. Using the characteristics class or characters in the Philippines in presenting class the Nobel. Mas maintindihan nyo yan when we discuss class Noli Me Tangere. Then Rizal continued his travels and started class writing the sequel of Noli Me Tangere, the Il Filibusterismo, wherein if the Nobel class Noli Me Tangere was dedicated to the fatherland, then Noli Me Tangere, no, the Il Filibusterismo, dedicated to the Gumburza. And Rizal again published Il Filibusterismo in Brussels. The question there, why in Brussels for Il Filibusterismo? And why in Germany for Noli Me Tangere? Why not in the Philippines? If the intention class of Rizal only to open the eyes of the friars and the government officials, the setting class is not the Philippines. Rizal used the characters of the priest of Filipino names in order to predict or present the wrongdoings of the Europeans to the world. Okay, hanggang dyan muna tayo, class, para may element of surprise when we discussed Noli Me Tangere and Il Filibusterismo. Okay, so may tanong po. Hello? Hello? Hello everyone, are you still, nandyan pa kayo?
Yes po, sir.
Okay, may tanong? May tanong po?
Wala man po, sir.
May naintindihan?
Marami po, sir.
Yes po, sir.
Okay. So, your knowledge class about Rizal life works and writings, including his novels, mababago yan. No? When we discussed Noli Me Tangere and Il Filibusterismo. Connected kasi yan. Rizal's experience with the Gumburza when he was 11 years old. Then the use of names Jose Rizal and Jose Mercado traveling abroad and his mission, then it will shed light to the intentions of Rizal, why there is a need to study Rizal life works and writings, because the setting of the subject is not purely Philippines, but it includes the world. Rizal class is a very good researcher, and he personally noticed many bad things about the Europeans. Okay, so we'll end here. Thank you for your participation. Thank you to the discussants this afternoon, Ms. Ochinko and Ardarin, and Villadea and Manseyas. How about a big round of applause to them? Thank you so much for your participation, for your presentation, and next meeting, we will accommodate 3 topics. And the continuation of my discussions, hanggang dito muna. Iko-continue ko yan, class, when we discuss about Noli Me Tangere and then Il Filibusterismo. Okay, so let's end with a prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.